with everyone having one goal in mind, which is to be successful. I find that a lot of people forget to also create a thriving life at the same time. And that's what my special guest, Christiane Schroeter, and I are going to be talking about today in this episode. So don't go anywhere. Welcome to Leading Intentionally, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of leadership transformation. I am Carmen Paredes, your guide in this journey, and I'm so thrilled to have you with us today. In each episode, we share strategies, insights, and stories to help you drive growth, enhance workplace culture, and lead with intentionality. Whether you are a seasoned executive, an aspired leader, or just someone passionate about positivity in the workplace, this podcast is for you. Each week, I'll bring you conversations with thought leaders, experts, and trailblazers that will share with you their insights, wisdom, and experiences so that you can apply these practical tips to your leadership journey. Get ready to explore topics like inclusive leadership, women's empowerment, effective communication, and so much more. If you're ready to lead intentionally and make lasting impact in your organization, you are in the right place. Let's embark in this transformative leadership journey together. This is Leading Intentionally. Let's dive in. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you're listening in the world. Welcome to today's episode, and we're going to be talking about how to create a blueprint for thriving in business and life. And I want to welcome to the show today my guest, Dr. Christiane Schroeter. She's a lifestyle and leadership coach, and she started her Hello Happiness coaching business in 2013. She has degrees in food and nutrition and a PhD in health economics and 20 plus years of experience helping women in business transform their daily business and wellness routines. Christiana has worked as a professor for 15 plus years and earned multiple national and international teaching and publication awards. Most of her clients find her in her Happy Healthy Hustle podcast, which is ranked on the top 1.5% globally. And Christiana creates a community on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube sharing how to nurture your health without overwhelm. And welcome to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me here, Carmen. I'm super excited to connect. And of course, welcome to the audience. This is going to be a really exciting show.
Yeah, I am so excited because she's a fantastic host, by the way. I was featured in her podcast too. And so, top notch speaker as well. So I'm so excited because this is going to be a very elevated conversation. And I really like this topic because we as women tend to forget the nurturing part, like, the health, the eating well, the taking care of, your body while we're trying to go out and accomplish all these goals that we have. And this is what I believe you bring to the table, because it's this beautiful harmony of getting it all, the business and the life that thrive together. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story
Mhm.
and who you are? I know I read the bio, but it's better when we hear from you, and what you do.
Yeah, so I wear a few hats, and I'm going to start with the most important one. I'm a mom. I have two daughters that I'm
Mhm.
raising here in California, where we live. And the reason why we moved here is because of my job. So I'm a full-time professor at university here. And I moved here being pregnant with my first daughter. So that kind of already introduces how I lead my life. There's a lot of things that I kind of just do and figure out on the go, as I feel women frequently accomplish things and they are afraid to take those first steps. And I'm basically there to empower women. So I'm, in addition to my full time job, I'm also a coach where I help other women leaders that are at the crossroads of their life, and I empower them go after your dreams, even if those dreams sometimes don't seem super safe. I am there and support them and cheer them on.
That's beautiful. So you obviously have been able to accomplish that for yourself, right? Which is always um, beautiful when we're talking about something that we want to inspire someone to do, because it's like if you are the model, if you're the role model of that, it's easier to find the right terminology and examples that inspire other people to go there. So did you, I mean, did you wake up one day and say, okay, yeah, this is how I know how to do? Or did you struggle along the way to find that balance and then found yourself, having to make adjustments to your life to be able to create this beautiful, thriving life that you have now?
Oh, for sure. I think that we learn from the struggles.
Hmm.
And then the best thing is when we struggle and we experience that it's something that we might not even have ourselves just in isolation, that we share the struggles.
Hmm. Hmm.
So learning really happens when you struggle, when you feel it's something that is a negative experience, that then you share it. Because by sharing it, others that have the same struggle listen to it. And first of all, it empowers them because they don't feel like they're the only ones that do this. But secondly, by sharing it, we frequently share our story of how we overcame it. So when I was a mom, and I am a woman in business, I was a full-time professor, first was pregnant, and even through pregnancy, I already experienced how my body was changing and how I needed to do things differently, right? I started a brand new job when
Hmm.
I was pregnant, so I frequently had to take little rests and lay down, and it wasn't as easy to stand in the classroom with my child growing in my body. So we frequently then learn how to become more honest with ourselves and to listen maybe to that inner voice. It's like, hold on, I need to take a break. And if we
Hmm.
ignore this,
Hmm.
these voices, and we ignore our needs, then our body eventually just kind of like tunes in and really lets us know, well, that you tended to ignore me, so now you need to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I find like I talk about this a lot because I talk about burnout. It's like, I was getting all these nudges along the way.
Yeah.
Start with migraines, and it's like, okay, well, just take a leave or whatever, right? And then like hives, and it's like, well, you just like don't itch, don't scratch yourself. And then, it like the body start like raising the volume. It's like, oh, you're not gonna listen. Let me really get your attention. And if you don't really stop to be real with yourself, like you're talking about, it can really get to serious consequences. And so I'm glad that you're saying that, because it's so important. And also the fact that when we're going through these difficult situations, we always tend to think we're the only ones. We're this alien being that is broken, because everyone else is putting this face in social media, especially now that life is perfect. And when we are going through something catastrophic, and it could be just, it could be anything, right? But something that really is shaking our core, we tend to think that we're weak and that we are not good enough to go through this, when in reality everybody is going through something. And I so appreciate women like you, and this is what I have this platform, is to bring awareness that, what, it doesn't matter how powerful you are as a being, we are not superwomen. And or maybe we are, but the core of being superwoman is to accept that we are humans, right? And we have to rely on other people sometimes to grow or to overcome adversity, and leaning to mentors like yourself.
Right. And I think that the part of the issue really is that we try to be these perfect human beings and we try to, like you might only see me from the outside and then you think, oh, she got her life all together.
Hmm.
And you don't sometimes want to take down that facade and share really what is happening behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
we need to become more honest with it because the sharing is actually what makes us better human beings, what makes us stronger, what makes us more authentic, what makes us connect more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's liberating too, because ever since I started sharing my mind and my heart publicly with the things that I go through, there is the number of people who's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Because they feel uncomfortable with the fact that I can be so open, right? And
Mhm.
authentic. But then there is the majority of people who, even if it's closed doors, because a lot, depending on the platform, like for instance, in LinkedIn, I get a lot of comments behind the scenes because people are still very conscious of like agreeing or something, right? Because it's like, oh my God, people are going to see that I'm also going through that. But that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it so people know that, yeah, we're humans, right? So I love this conversation, but I want to get into how, because this is what probably everyone's scratching their heads right now. How do you create this thriving business and life?
I think how I do it is that I have some non-negotiables
Mhm,
that are important, and I basically take them and think about like the non-negotiables, like you're making your favorite food. So you're following a recipe.
mhm,
The non-negotiables are like the basic ingredients that you need. And let's just say you're making a tomato sauce, right? And independent of the culture and your background, tomato sauce is very, is very knowledgeable to us what that is. And obviously we need tomatoes, obviously we need some spices, and maybe it's pretty basic, really,
mhm,
maybe just 4 or 5 ingredients. So I use those ingredients as my non-negotiables, and then I schedule them in my day. Everything else, let's come back to our tomato sauce experience, is just like fluff, right? So you could put the most expensive olive oil in your tomato sauce. You could add on grated cheese, blah, blah, blah. But maybe I just wanted to make the most basic and really delicious tomato sauce. And I buy these ingredients with that intent that that's what it's going to be. And so essentially in my life, I look at that as in this way, that I have basic needs and I schedule them in my day and I follow through with them. Everything else, it can fall to the side because
mhm,
it's not important. I still get my things done. That's the tomato sauce. I create this and it's good, it's basic, it's nourishing, it's delicious. Everything else, nah, it's like it's just it could be the cherry on the top, but it's not necessary because in the grand scheme of things, that's what's going to lead to burnout
And
because you're driving
that
yourself
is
crazy.
that is so beautiful because many times I love the analogy about tomato sauce. Now let's make an analogy of exercise, right? Sometimes we said, okay, in
Yeah.
order to lose this weight, in order to be fit, in order to feel good, I have to exercise 5 days a week for 90 minutes. And so it becomes so overwhelming and impossible to accomplish that we don't even start. And so if the tomatoes in the tomato sauce is, what if you exercise, period? You know,
Mhm.
what if you start with 1 day a week and then you get up into two, and right? But like we create this impossible goal, right? In when it comes to nurturing ourselves, right? Exercise or eating, because we think that it needs to be this perfection schedule or very complicated thing. So I love that analogy because it's very, I mean, I'm a visual person, so it's very visual for me. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can add all kind of things to your tomato sauce, but you definitely need tomatoes. So
Yeah.
let's go get the tomatoes.
Exactly. And speaking about exercise, because I work as a fitness instructor, I see this all the time to where people come to my workout classes. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to come back tomorrow." And I sometimes like nearly want to like say, "Let's not come back tomorrow because you might be sore from today." So give
Mhm.
your body some time because with exercise, there is like a before, a middle, and an after, right? The before might be like, all right, but to get some sneakers because you can't work out without, proper
Choose.
footwear,
Yeah.
right? Do we need everything else, the gadgets and da 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 da? Probably not, right? But you definitely need shoes, most likely, unless you do yoga. But you know what I mean. So then the footwear, the workout, the stretching doesn't require you to do this every single day because it's just something you got to get your body moving. Do you need to necessarily do an hour workout every single day? Probably not. Maybe you can vary it. Maybe on the next day you do the stretching or the yoga, or you're going for a walk, or maybe you're going on your bike around the neighborhood. So think about exercise, and I'm coming back to my tomato sauce example, as like when we go to a food court And there are all these different possibilities of things you could do. So now you have your tomato sauce. Let's say we got sneakers. There's so many different things you can do now, right? You can put it in pasta. You can use it as an ingredient to maybe create a little dip. You can also use it and maybe put it on top of vegetables. So you got your basic, you got your sneakers. There's so many different things you can do. And I would love for you to think about it this way, that it's just a vehicle to accomplish a goal, but it doesn't need to be always the same goal. It's not rigid. You need to be much more forgiving with yourself and much more flexible. And that's really what women tend to be. We're like feeling around this pedestal that we have to reach, and that's not the goal. The goal is just to be humble and just do something.
Yeah. And it's such an important topic because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? And
Yeah.
so sometimes we are very conditioned to behave like in school and at work. There are ways in which we're supposed to be successful. And this is a whole new thing that I'm trying to see, like how I like shake the culture, because I have kids in school and it's like, well, no, he's not that type of person, and doesn't mean that he's not successful. So I'm always in parent teacher conference trying to like have the teachers not impose their concept of success on them. But
Yeah.
moving back to like, grown-ups and business and life, it's like, okay, so forget about business for a second because we have this condition. But if you look at how you behave in these other areas of your life, then you might have a clue on what are the behaviors that you need to tap into, with coaching or with a mentor. Because if you are obsessive about exercise, or if you go to a buffet and you can not possibly choose one thing and have to try it all because lack, right, it's like you're never going to be able to eat these things again.
Yeah.
Those are behaviors that you need to look into deeply, because they are probably the cause, as you said earlier and I talk about, burnout, or giving up because we think it's the mountain is too steep to climb it, because we get overwhelmed, right? So beautiful example. So I love the fact that you have all these facets of yourself, right? You're a professor, fitness instructor, podcaster, coach, mom. And often what you find is that people feel like, well, if you are doing these too many things, you cannot be good at anything. Well, you and I
Mhm.
know that that's a lie. But
Mhm.
I want to bring light into that, because so many people have all these passions, but they feel like it has to be confined to one box. Like if I'm going to be in corporate, I can only do that. And I'm so scared to go and voice my opinion or share my passions with someone else, because people are going to think that I'm not committed to the thing. So in
Mhm.
this thriving business and life, because I feel like living your passions is part of having a thriving life, how can you empower our listeners to just go explore the things that you want with balance, and what are the things that you would suggest for them to go do that and still keep this thriving theme going?
Mm. So that's a great question. And I just talked with a client this week. So the client was in a corporate job, female, and basically knew that she loved her job, right? She, however, felt there was something else she always wanted to do. And, for me, maybe it was podcasting or it was fitness coaching or whatever. So that client, however, didn't listen to that inner voice, but just put her head down and went to work every single day. If you think like nearly like it's a little hamster going through that little hamster wheel thing, right? Producing amazing work and also thriving in her business, being very successful. So it's that safety that you're afraid of getting out of. And where all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I know I'm dreaming of starting a podcast, but I'm also having a full time job. And I don't think this is the right time. I'm going to put this off for later because I know that when I retire, I'm going to have so much more time and I can do all these different things that I always dreamed about, traveling the world and starting a podcast and da 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 da. Now, let's maybe think this a little bit differently. Why not now?
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it really when you retire that you're going to do all these different things? Because it could also be that you get to retirement, and while I'm not hoping it, it could be that maybe your health is not great, or maybe you don't even
Mm-hmm.
feel like traveling the world anymore
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds super exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal really is not to say, oh, I will do this later. Oh, I will do this maybe next year. But it's just not the right time. Because I can tell you, when I wanted to have children and I was pregnant, did I plan on starting a job being pregnant? No, it's
Of
probably
course.
not the right
Yeah.
time. However, it still got done somehow. So you somehow just need to think that in life, when we have dreams, start scheduling when you are realizing the
Mm-hmm.
dreams. It's nearly like a bucket list. I
Mm-hmm.
would like that you start writing a bucket list and revisit the bucket list so that you're actually like, hold on, I always wanted to travel to Australia. So what can I make to do this happen? Oh, it's expensive. All right. So maybe I start setting money aside.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm setting money aside so that in 2 years, I'm actually looking at my calendar. I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. So this client said, I really regret that I thought I'm going to realize my dreams when I retire. It turned out to be really to where now in retirement, I feel like I will never ever complete my bucket list because there's just not enough time left in life. You don't want to get to that point? No?
Never, never want to be regretting anything. Regret is one of those feelings that, is I better be wrong than wondering if I was right or wrong. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was, I'm going to say like 28, maybe 30 years old. The first time I took a cruise through Alaska. That was before I moved to Alaska. But we did a cruise in Alaska, and I was like by far the youngest person in that boat. I swear. Like it was like all people. But a lot of them had wheelchairs, oxygen tanks, this trip of a lifetime. And they couldn't enjoy it. And that's what you were saying. Like that moment I said, "Oh no, I'm not waiting a second to travel the world. I'm starting today." And I have been in all but one continent, and so I haven't been in Antarctica, but and I don't know I'm going to go there, but I've been in every other place because my soul wanted to travel, and I'm not waiting until I'm 60 nothing to do that, right? And so it's like, what, life is giving you always like little messages, and for me, I'm glad it was a very subtle, had nothing to do with me, but I was just observing, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not, this is not happening to me. And so what my question to the listeners would be, what are you postponing? Like Christiana is saying, it's like, no, let's try that bucket list and start bringing awareness, conscious awareness to it, because this is what's going to happen. You might think it's too expensive to go to Australia, but then you start thinking about it, and the universe will serve you a ticket, that's on sale for so cheap that you cannot say no, because that actually happened to me with Australia particularly. So you just gotta be willing to go, right? But it's a beautiful way to put that, Christiana. Is there how do clients work with you when they found you through your podcast, or they find you through this podcast? What are the steps to get in touch with you, and like what working with you looks like?
Mhm. So I have a mastermind collective
Mm,
where we are doing what we're doing now, right? So we basically uncover our dreams, we get to know each other, we build community, we also build collaboration, which means that there are other amazing people there that also have dreams. And of course, we are making a system that will accomplish your goals. So I always say if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, especially if you're doing it in isolation, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So we have to change things up a little bit, and we have to look into, all right, so there's your dream. What are the steps to get you there? So in my mastermind collective, we're going to create a plan and we're going to create a system to get you there. And that's a monthly meeting. It's quite amazing because, of course, the whole leadership perspective that we tend to have in isolation, usually things not happening But if we build a community of leaders, that's really when the powerhouses come together. And it's like when the energy is really sizzling. So I would love to have you invite to that. It's at hellohappinest.com. That's my website, Hello Happy Nest. And my podcast is called Happy Healthy Hustle. And there are other leaders and women entrepreneurs that are sharing their amazing stories, including Carmen, who are inspiring us with all the challenges and how they overcame it.
Thank you. And yes, we're going to put all those links in the description of the podcast so people can just be a click away to find you. And I just want to attest to the power of a mastermind and the power of the community because, I mean, I'm going to confess, I used to be one of those people that was like, oh, no, just give me the one on one. Just give me the one on one. And that's great. Some people do need the one on one. But I have transformed my idea, my impression of the power of the collective energy. And there's something about sharing your experiences and listening with your heart, like open minded listening to what other people are going through, that really creates breakthroughs on people. Sometimes it's not what you going through that is going to give you the breakthrough, but someone else's. And I know some of us, I used to be one of those that, oh no, I'll try it, let me just like crash against the wall, I'll figure out. You don't have to. You don't have to, because if someone else have done it and you can learn from that, you can, catapult yourself like years ahead of where you can be. So that is exciting to hear about that. And we definitely like make sure people go there and check Christiana out. So is there anything else you would like to say or leave our audience with today before we wrap up the show?
Well, I am definitely excited that we are sharing this message here. And my main message to the listener is it's kind of like this fear and failure
Mhm.
that I'm frequently experiencing in life, right? We're afraid to take the first steps because we are afraid to fail. What I really want to encourage you is that fear crushes more dreams than failure ever will. So
Mm.
don't be afraid to take that first step, because if you're afraid to take that first step, you will never figure out what that dream actually would be like. And you for sure, yeah, you're not going to fail, but you could very well succeed. So don't crush your dreams, go for it. And if you're afraid to take that first step, I would love to help you and guide you there.
Oh my God, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for that inspirational ending to this episode. It's always so amazing to connect with you. And to our listeners, I really recommend you to check her out in her podcast because she's an amazing host. And I have listened to many of the conversations. Plus, you can hear my episode too. And, but yeah, so thank you for being here. And remember to continue to lead with intention. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Thank you.